Welcome, everyone, to TeachMePCB Office Hours. I'm Mark, the creator of TeachMePCB and co-facilitator of this year's cohort. Sponsored in part by Royal Circuit Solutions, Advanced Assembly, Oshpark, Altium, Walkwe, TheAnalog.io, and a few others. So thanks for joining us tonight. I've already got my first guest, Elliot of ElliotMakes. So I'm going to stop this little solo layout madness and have a friend. So, hey, Elliot.
Hey,
How are you doing tonight, buddy?
doing good.
So
Yep.
thank you. Thank you for joining me. It gets kind of lonely on here all by myself with my cats. And if anybody else wants to join in the background, please do. We'll get you added on into the stream. So what do you want to talk about tonight, man?
Well, I had something I wanted to share, and I figured this would be a good place to do it. I think I mentioned on Discord a while back. Haven't posted on the forums yet, but I've got a footprint that you guys might be interested in, so I'll be happy to share it. So actually,
Yeah.
let me share my screen if I can here.
Yeah.
I'll show you what I've done.
Ooh.
And let's see.
It'll when you share, it'll give me a screen that I have to click on, and then I will bring it up. There it is.
I just got to pick from one of these monitors is all.
No worries.
Yeah, let's give this a whirl.
And we'll sync into the.
Should see the footprint editor here in KiCad. This is what I've done. So this is a a normal key switch. So this is the same footprint as a Cherry MX or and basically any of the other keyboard switches. And jammed up underneath it is a NeoPixel. So I just got these in the mail. I made them last week. I drew one that's really jammed up in there. Another one that's not quite as jammed up in there. So I've got them both on my bench, and they seem to work really well. So if you give me a minute, I'll join up with a different device over here, and I can actually like show you what they look like in person.
Please do. And while you prep that, I will show everybody what you're talking about to give you a minute or two to get prepped.
Right on. I just got to type this URL into a cell phone. It'll be great.
All right. Well, take your time, and I will go solo while you get that loaded up. Okay. All right. So what Elliot is talking about with these Cherry MX style switches is there's this spot on the bottom of each switch. And in fact, let me do an overhead layout so that you can see it a little clearer. And he didn't tell me what he was doing tonight. He wanted it to be a surprise. Let's see if we can get you a little more light there. So on the back side of each one of these switches, there's a cutout. I don't know if you can see it right there. I can see it on the monitor, so you might be able to see it. And what he's done is created a pattern where the 50 millimeter by 50 millimeter LED hits that little recess. So the light from the LED shines up through the switch and directly into the acrylic here. There's a little bit of an overhang, an extra overhang, depending on your switch style. But see, it'll come right up through there, and then once it hits, it'll light up the whole darn thing. So pretty cool stuff. And it looks like we've got Elliot to add to the stream. All right, buddy.
Okie dokie.
How do I make this one big? Give me just a second here. Let me remove the other Elliot. But again, you're not big. What's going on? Give me a second here. Let's go with that one. Okay. It's all you. Except we've lost your audio because I removed you. Give me one sec, buddy.
Okay, yeah. I'm an audio with one machine. video.
Wait, I just heard you.
Complicated.
There we go. Okay.
Okay. That's the cell phone.
You muted it. You're good.
Okay. I think I've got some echo going on here.
Okay, yeah, the echo's on your end.
How about now?
I still hear echo. I've got your cell phone muted. Do you want me to unmute that and mute the other computer?
Yeah, go for it.
Say something.
Okay, can you hear me now?
You're pretty quiet.
Okay, better?
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. I'm an amateur.
That's okay.
So, let's see if I can kind of see what I'm doing here. So yeah, same deal. We got the switches with the little notch going on there. This board looks like just like that footprint. So we've got NeoPixel there, keyboard, and then these are just some pin headers so I can connect to it. But it actually fits quite well. I don't know how the lighting's going on there, but you can see how it nestles right over top of that thing. So I've got one of these, the one that's not too tight, fits with no modifications. So this spacing is pretty good. And then the other one, you got to get in there with a knife and kind of trim I need a pointy tool, trim these two little corners. And then you can really get it under there. What I've observed, and let me see if this thing still works, and do that, is it's pretty bright.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter how well you did on that. Let me get a keycap. So doesn't seem to be any advantage to get in there and like cut them apart and get them to really fit so close. These things are bright enough that they just kind of work. So I'm definitely going to use this in my design and not bother with trying to do those rear mounted ones or anything like that. So
that is cool.
Anyways, just
yeah, no, I think people are going to want to buy you a beer. That's really cool.
Sounds great.
How do you want to share that? That is
I'll put the footprint in the forums, I think, and that's good enough for me. You tell me.
I think forums would be good, and then also in our part database, maybe.
Okay.
I have no idea what you'll name that. There's certainly no IPC 7251 or 7351. That one, I mean, it's somewhere in between. It's a custom part, so you can call it the ElliotMakes, whattever.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
Share this board too. What it is actually it's made for panel mounting. So let's see here. You can get this, and it's got 2 screw holes in it.
Okay.
So I've found like everything on eBay that's cheap, all the push button switches, they all feel like garbage. They're kind of mushy and don't have good feedback. And when you're building like a machine and you want a clicky button, if you can 3D print a keycap with a really long stem on it, you can mount one of these behind a panel, like in a control panel. It's super robust and they last forever and they work well. So that's what I did this for. I figured I'd just recycle it here and put an LED under it.
That is really cool. I'm sure there's other places you can maybe sell that, Tindy or whatever. One question I have though, can I see the back of that again?
Yeah, I didn't do any decoupling or anything good.
That's what I was going to ask. But, hey, that's what revisions are for. So
there is actually a capacitor on the front here. You just can't see it because it's bad lighting.
No, I think I can. I think I can see the pads there. Okay, cool.
But yeah, not optimized for any like quality of design, but surprisingly you can get away with a lot with these things. I mean, I just unplugged one and plugged another one in without being careful, and it works.
Nice. No, you can actually get away with a lot that we're not teaching. We're trying to teach best practices in the course, but if you knew what Jesse and I would do if people weren't looking, it would be a little different. So by all means, very cool, Elliot. Very cool.
Oh, since we're here, here's one other thing. You remember that tool you introduced to us made out of a bent piece of wire on like the
Yeah,
first day? You can't focus on this thing.
I
It's a
see it.
pogo in the end of a piece of steel, and it works
Nice.
really well to hold a component down.
Nice.
A little bit of give. It doesn't bounce around the table. Works really good.
Nice, man. Very cool. I wonder, I don't know how many people are watching tonight, but I wonder if anybody has any comments on that. I know we've got at least 2. The numbers that it gives me in StreamYard, I just don't think are all that accurate. What do you guys think? All those out there in TV land. I know you're watching, Brian. And it'll take a minute too for the delay to show through.
Yeah, if you ask for questions, you got to wait for like 40 seconds before you aren't sure if there are any.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, there are ways around that. You can do bonding and, you throw 3 or 4 different data streams at the channel, and then you can do stuff that's live, but that's all a little bit much for me. And I'm lucky if I get, I don't even know what my internet is, but it's crap out here in the boonies. So I'm happy with what I got. So let's see, did we get it? Nope. We somehow didn't get any questions. Okay. Well, I'm going to speak for everybody and say that's very cool. So what are you making? What's your keypad design going to be?
Oh, geez. Let me go back to my other thing and figure out how to not have an echo, and I'll show you. So
Okay, do you want me to turn off your overhead cam?
I'm just going to leave with this device, and then they'll. All right. Am I back?
We got you, and I'm even going to solo you.
Great. Okay, let me share my screen again. And do number 2. All right.
I'm on it.
Cool. This is what I was thinking of.
Ooh, what is
So it's a circle.
I like it. I'm with you.
There's really nothing too exciting about it, other than I plan to layer, and I haven't drawn it here. This was just to kind of design what a keycap would be, because basically to use those keyboard switches, you're limited to what you can get for a keyboard. So I was thinking of a design that still use the switches, but I don't have to have square buttons. So do a ring of these, encoder in the middle with the push button, of course, and then I'm going to layer on a insulating layer of acrylic or something of that nature, cut it out, and then a piece of steel on the bottom so that it's heavy, stays put, and then just be like a almost functional sized shape thing on the desk.
Wow.
I'm trying to not work ahead too far, but I have an ulterior motive. I've been fooling around with what I know so far, and I can actually show you what I was able to come up with. And I don't know when we're gonna. I'm assuming soon we'll have the opportunity to actually do some review of what we've each done. So I was trying out the hierarchical diagrams here, and I've made it so far as, let's see, trying to get this all in a circle. And I will tell you that it's been very challenging in this program to deal with things that aren't on one of like the cardinal directions.
Yeah.
So I tried to keep everything in one spot. I think I'm breaking a lot of like rules for something you would want, or that would make something manufacturable. For example, I want to try to put the encoder on the flip side of the Pi Pico, which of course means the pins can't protrude whatsoever. I think I could get away with it by cutting them short before I solder it in, soldering them from the top because there's a lot of clearance,
Yeah.
and then hoping that it's flush on the bottom. And then ultimately, being able to get that here. Let me do this. Trying to get it all in one little circle there. But and I've got, of course, surface mount components on both sides for fun. But one of the challenges was trying to draw, so this USB port, for example, getting traces to come off of it at the correct angle. I found you can only snap traces to 45s and 90s, or freeform, but it feels wrong to have like some old angle on there. So what I found you can do as a workaround is, if you want to say draw a trace coming straight off of a device like this, you take your whole board, you find the origin, and you can change the steps that you rotate by, somewhere here. I want to say it's in here. Who knows? But there is a setting for how many degrees the R key moves your item. Here it is, rotation angle. So if you have something that's arrayed out on, say, some odd number of degrees, but you want to draw straight lines in relation to it, change the option here, rotate your entire board around, like draw on 0, 0, which by the way is weird because 0, 0 is the physical corner of a sheet of paper. So it's outside of the title block. I don't know if you guys can see the title block is dark here.
No.
So you have to draw outside of it if you want to use 0, 0 as a reference point. But after you do that, you can don't rotate or don't angle your traces, rotate your board and draw vertical traces and horizontal traces. So
Wow.
that was how, otherwise I was actually unable to draw this trace coming off of the component in that direction.
Huh.
So,
wow.
Anyways, I think I'm cheating, going ahead a little far, so I'm not going to try to waste too much time with questions about these things until we get there. But
wow.
if anyone's interested in having a look or giving me any feedback, I'd be happy for it.
Yeah, I would be happy to take a look at your schematic and your layout to see if I see anything obvious. But Jesse is the KiCad user. I wonder if we can't get him to jump on that and say hi. I gotta say, man, he's going to be impressed. I know I am.
I learned one thing from YouTube. I think it was one of the contextual electronics videos, but they recommended putting your mounting holes in your schematic.
Okay,
so
yeah.
that you don't forget them when you lay out the board, which I could see being very easy to do.
That is a good call. Absolutely. And test points. We haven't really talked much about those, but especially on your very first design, there's a very good chance that you're going to do something wrong. And if you have test points, if you have pull up and pull down resistors that you maybe don't need, those become solder pads for jumper wires. I know when I first started doing boards, I would put a breakable trace I put them all over the place. So that if I had a problem, I could take a little exact. Okay, so basically all it was a circle, kind of cut. I should just draw it instead of trying to.
Let me see here. I can actually just pull it up.
What's that?
I might actually have an example of what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be
right.
That would be even better if not, I'll draw something.
Okay.
I'll get the paper ready just in case.
Open. So this, but with a trace between it, I think is what you're talking about.
Yes. That's exactly it. So you can't join those because they're a net.
No,
but
there is a footprint for one that is joined.
But yeah, you would put a trace in the middle of that. And then if there's an issue, you cut it. If you cut it and you decide that, well, no, that wasn't an issue after all, you solder bridge it.
Right. And I put this one here so that I could connect one of my switch pins to ground, but I also exposed them on the pins over here in case I don't want it to go to ground.
Wow, man. That is cool. That is cool. I'm blown away, buddy. I don't even know what to say, but good for you.
Well,
So,
thanks. So that's all I
yeah,
had to share. I've taken up all the time. But
I think it's
yeah,
time well spent, and I think others are going to agree. We'll have to let people know that that exists because I guarantee you, um, everybody and their brother is going to use it.
yeah, I'd be happy to share. I didn't want to post it up yet because I
Wanted to try
hadn't
it.
tried it. Didn't
All
want to
right.
be that guy. So I try not to give advice that I'm not super sure on. So here we go. This will work most likely.
Yeah, I think that's a out of the park home run. That's great. So, but yeah, let us take a look. And especially if we can find. I'm sorry. I'm going to mute my notifications there. They'll just keep coming. Let's see if we can't talk Jesse into taking a look in KiCad. If not, I loaded up KiCad. I can take a look and I'll see what I see. But since Jesse's a more native user, he's going to probably be able to. Well, I mean, and he's also a more accomplished engineer. He's better at it than I am. He'll notice some things I won't.
Sure.
So
Yeah. And if you see, what do you call them? Teaching moments, feel free to pick it apart and share it with everybody. I'm just
teachable
doing my thing
moments.
here. So yeah.
Hey, man. Well, that's what all this is about. It One of the hardest things to teach people, and maybe it's something we can talk about tonight, is how to set your ego aside, how to separate engineering mistakes from personal failures, right? Character flaws. Because people all too often have those two thoughts intertwined. It's like, oh, I made a mistake. I'm such an idiot. I'm a big fool, blah, blah, blah. And I fall guilty of that too. Although for me, it's more of kicking myself. Okay, so like you remember all those capacitor issues that were in revision A of the schematic? I put those in intentionally. Now, the reason I put them in intentionally is when Jesse and I were doing the pre-review of the schematic, I had one of those in there by accident. And little arrogant me decided, ooh, I should put some mistakes in this schematic so people have something to find. There were plenty of mistakes in the schematic. I didn't need to add anything. But I was just thinking, it's like, listen, I just talked about this in course material. People are going to notice this. And they did. But there were other things that I didn't notice, like that one on, what was it, one of the rotary encoder nets I had misnamed.
Oh yeah. And I
And
think
then,
also the thing that DipTrace did where it flipped your USB
oh, God.
wires. That would have kind of been a deal breaker.
Oh, yeah, that would have killed USB. But the hard part was I couldn't fix it. There was some bug. And I think that no matter whatever net is on top ends up becoming the positive net, or I think is the way that it worked. So, and then there's another bug with the rotation axis thing that I haven't even gotten into yet. I don't know what that's about. But when I group components, there's some off-axis center. Don't know where that came from. So you try to rotate something, and instead of rotating the part in place, it rotates it off of something that's like 3 inches over, and you're like,
Yeah. Well,
what's
you're
that
just
about?
lucky you can even group components and rotate them. So,
This is true. This is true. Any word on what's coming out in the version 6 of KiCad or KiCad? However, how do you
Well,
pronounce it anyway?
I don't know. I'm a brand new user to it as of like
Okay.
a few weeks ago. So I'm intentionally ignoring it so that I don't get
Okay.
distracted by.
Good man.
I hate that thing you get where something new is coming, so you wait and on some opportunities and like delay and like, oh no, I won't try this until it's better later. You end up not doing it anyways. I'm trying to ignore that because I think it's unfortunate when it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've certainly, for somebody who's not done a PCB before, you've certainly come a long way in a short amount of time. So,
Never surface mount. I've done a few, but certainly no formal training, and no one other than me has ever criticized them. So I don't know what I'm doing.
what software did you use before?
So I was using Easy EDA, which
Okay.
is remarkably easy now that I've used something else. So that's the one that's owned by whatever the company is, JLC PCB,
Mm-hmm.
their parts company, LCSC, and there's one other one. But it's in your web browser. I think there's a desktop version, never bothered with it. And it does all kinds of common sense things. It seems really easy to use, and there's a lot of features there I'm noticing absent from KiCad, like being able to display, like selectively display nets in your rat lines. I found it was really neat to like turn off ground and 5 volts, whatever, route everything else, and then deal with the ground last. It feels natural, but you can't really do that in this software. So I don't know. I thought it wasn't bad, not bad at all. It's all in the cloud, so it has all the drawbacks of that. None of your information is your own, and
Yeah.
it will export, I think, a reasonable set of file types. So I'd say a little better than Autodesk, where you're kind of locked in and it's hard to get out unless you export. I don't know, with Fusion, I haven't used it in a long time, but you can export step files and other like non-history type files. So you can have the solids if you want them, but you can't really get the source out. So it seemed like it would export in Altium and some other formats. So yeah, we'll see. I was happy with it.
Yeah, there's another one out there too. I want to say it's called PCB 123, and I believe Sunstone owns that one. Another EDA tied to a manufacturer, and that one was, at the time, I think the development stagnated in the previous, recently, but at its time, that thing was pretty advanced. It had a live bomb. So as you were picking parts, you could see, who had them, DigiKey, Mouser, other EDA, they're just now doing that. Altium's done it, for 2 or 3 years. DipTrace just now got around to doing it. I don't know if KiCad/KiCad does it. But this was 10 years ago and it was doing it. It was pretty amazing. Keith Ackerman, I think, wrote that. And then he passed, and Sunstone acquired somewhere in there. And yeah. So
I was Googling the other day for where to get prototypes made, and Sunstone is like 8 miles from my house. It's a small world.
You're down in San Diego.
No, well, if it's the same Sunstone, there's one in Oregon here.
Oregon, okay. I would
Sunstone
imagine.
circuits, printed circuit boards, PCB 123.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, they're in Malino, Oregon.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
What do you know?
There you go. Then you've got Altium, circuit maker, and I forget the other version of that. DigiKey has one that is atrocious called Schemit.
I've been using that.
Was atrocious.
You know what it's good for? It's making wiring diagrams. So not schematics, but like you need a picture with different color lines that connect things together. It's pretty good at that.
Yeah, no, it's come a long ways in past years. I haven't been back to it in like 3 or 4 years. I used it when it was still relatively new, and I got really angry at DigiKey. But they've put a lot of money and time into it, so it's better. So I mean, that's another one that's free and useful. Is it Arrow or Mouser that has multi-sim? Maybe Mouser. But multi-sim is what I cut my teeth on when I was in college, back in the day. That was, pretty much the only simulation software the school touted at the time. There were things like Spice, but it was, or LT Spice, but it was very poorly developed. Multi-sim, you could go pull resistors and capacitors and do some, some very basic circuit analysis and do logic circuits and stuff. But nobody seems to use that anymore. But that one was, and it was like multi-sim and ulti-route or something. So this is the late 90s, early thousands, early aughts, the noughties. And I think that's just about covers the gamut of stuff. DipTrace I really like, but nobody uses it.
That's the CAD CAM software I'm using that you saw briefly. ZW3D. Nobody uses it.
Yeah. I don't know. I like it. It does what I need to do. I know my way around it. It doesn't pay to go through the headache that you guys are having with KiCad/KiCad. I really need to learn how to pronounce that. I would save like half my life. Anyways, But yeah, there's a ton of stuff out there. That's why I kind of like having TeachMePCB be software agnostic. Let, write the stuff in such a way that people can bring to it whatever they're comfortable with. And then we don't have to also at the same time worry about software revisions, right? If I wrote this course for KiCad/KiCad, again, I need to learn how to pronounce it. I'd be having to do new graphics for every software update. It'd be a headache. I wouldn't enjoy that.
You never know. It might all look the same version after version.
It could.
Be close enough.
Altium changes their look with every version, it seems. They're always trying to polish it a little more. And it's great software, but it's kind of like Microsoft. I'm going to forget about Altium. I'm going to go with, Microsoft Office Suite, right? Microsoft Word. What does it do now? Microsoft Word, not Altium. What does Microsoft Word do now that it didn't do 10 years ago?
It hides buttons in different places than they were 10 years ago. Yeah.
That's pretty much the only functionality they've added. They just move things around and give it a new GUI. At least Altium, they do move stuff, and that does anger users, but they still add functionality. The router, the auto route, and the tools for running buses and all that, they're much nicer than they used to be. All of the in the cloud functionality, the Altium, I forget if it's 360 or 365, because I don't use it at the moment because it's kind of out of my price range. Yeah, it's cool. It keeps adding functionality, and that's why they get to keep charging money for it. Microsoft.
There's something to be said to pick the software that has the biggest user base, because depending on who you are, it's hard to get help, especially from like the authors sometimes. And that's why I went with my CAD software. Is like, I got to figure it out. There's no English search results with answers, and there's a time zone problem if you actually need to reach support. So, yeah, it's hard to leave though because I own a license.
Yeah. Hey, have you tried that Inkscape to Shingen? Oh, here's Brian. I'm sorry, Brian. You're hiding behind the camera. Are you there, buddy?
Just have
I'm sorry. How long have you
been? A minute, maybe.
Just a minute. Okay.
I have found that my phone does not cooperate with streaming. I can watch the YouTube just fine, but I can't do two-way when I'm just on my phone. So
I don't know if you guys will be able to see in the reflection of my phone, but so that it looks like I'm looking at you, I've got a camera and a monitor right behind it.
Huh.
And right down there is your icon.
Yeah,
I was worried you'd been sitting there. So, how you doing tonight, man?
Okay. Tired. Didn't sleep well last night, so I'm kind of out of it. But and I've been the reason I didn't sleep well, I think I was up too late doing PC board stuff, and I was dreaming PC board stuff all night long, and don't feel like I slept much. But then I've been doing it again all day, so
yeah,
who knows?
Sorry to hear that, man. That's
struggle is real.
The that SVG to Sengen or whatever it is. Yes, it works. It's a little picky. It's a little strange here and there, but it does work eventually. I got my board outline back into KiCad or whatever it is. The conceptual electronics guy says Kai, so I've been trying to do that, but I've
Kai. Okay.
I don't know that he knows any better than anybody else, but he's out there. So
he seems like an official. Let's just go with KiCad.
He certainly knows what he's doing.
Ooh.
Yeah, I got that plug-in to work.
Nice.
My favorite.
I could also get it to crash.
Good man.
All right.
Nice.
You drop it and it breaks. So, yeah.
Nice, man.
The prototype was working. I'm started printing the next 2 copies I'm going to give away for Christmas. So,
nice. That is cool. Very cool. How many are you going to make?
probably just the 3. I know that there's only going to be the 3 of them that are hand painted, because all the numbers are, they're millimeter deep in the print, but they're hand painted because I don't have a dual extruder yet. So that's probably 2, 3, 4 hours worth of painting.
Yeah.
Probably an hour and a half worth of assembly, wiring. I've got to cut. It's the LEDs. Adafruit makes these things they call buttons. It's a NeoPixel on a little round circuit board with pads on it, with solder just pads on the back to put wires on. So I've got to cut. There's 20 LEDs. That's 60 wires. Cut.
Are you're painting the numbers on the faces? Have you considered? I don't know if this would work. Raising the lettering and then making yourself some kind of stamp contraption where you can just press it against a pad of paint or ink and get the same. Like it'll paint the tops of the numbers, but not the surface around it, and just go real fast.
Maybe, yeah. I may try that. But the best solution is to have a dual extruder printer and have it print the colored numbers. Which,
sure,
if I was going to produce them, that's probably what I would do. But no, the assembling the LEDs is probably 2 or 3 hours of cutting and stripping and soldering. So I probably got over a day per ball in time, just time spent putting it together. Not to mention about $35 worth of parts and a day and a half of printing. So they're not cheap and they're not time efficient. So I was thinking about making a custom circuit board and producing them, but not with that much assembly time.
Well, one of the things that we will talk about a little bit later on in the course, although it won't be the mechanics of it, it'll be fabrication and assembly, is design for manufacture and design for assembly. Because it's not a matter of can you make one, like your Christmas tree ornaments, right? You've already identified this problem. You can make them, but the investment in time, energy, and money is such that it would never be a viable, marketable product that way, right? So when you're designing board stuff, you've got to also make those decisions. It's not just can it be made once, but can it be made once quickly by some guy on third shift who's drunk and, on meth and hasn't slept in 3 days. That's what you have to design to. But that being said, those projects aren't nearly as fun as the one-offs. The one-offs are the ones that we enjoy doing and the ones that we're proud of and the ones that we keep around. The stuff that's, DFM'd or, designed for cost or whatever it is to death, they're just not as fun.
It is fun to make things easy for you to do. I've actually got an example of it. So I've been making, I think I showed them before, some clocks, right? So I've got a face that's whatever. But what I've been doing is my original one was a bunch of LEDs, 121 of them. You got to solder them all up. So I redesigned so that the spacing of those letters exactly matches the spacing of one of the LED strips you can get.
Yeah.
And then I only had to solder whatever, 40 connections or whatever, 11 times, whatever, 25 connections-ish on the end. But it was still 3 wires making a little U-turn. And so I ended up, and these are cheap, but making a board with some funny pads on the end that I could just slap these on and solder the ends. So it does all the connecting for me.
Oh, cool.
The real way to do this would be to have it assembled, but I don't want to solder 121 LEDs surface mount either. One thought I had is you can get these in multiple spacings, but if you could wrangle up a way to put a single strip inside of your object and glue not even every LED, maybe every other LED to the inside of a face, you might accomplish the same thing.
Yeah.
With no soldering, just stuff it with one of these and tack each of them in place.
Yeah. I need about 3-inch spacing. And that's way wider than any of the strips come at this point.
They make some double this, but put 30 LEDs in, but only use 15 of them. Like, just stick them on. If it's all one of those like time versus effort, money, enjoyment things, but if you really were in a hurry, it'd probably be worth sacrificing like $3 worth of LEDs to save 2 hours worth of soldering.
That is true.
Or do what you want. Don't worry about what I have to say. Because you should enjoy what you're doing.
That's the way you figure out how to make stuff that you can market. You know, I'm just happy to have a project that is almost finished and works. The software
and it's cool.
Is exactly what I wanted it to. It looks like I wanted it to. I managed to get tap, drop, and shake out of the same accelerometer. It's actually working pretty well.
Yeah,
yeah.
And
well,
it's
there's probably a word for it too. I don't know what you would call it, but it's like you have paralysis from thinking about how to do something so much that you ever actually get started or get it done. There's definitely projects with that.
Analysis paralysis, yeah.
That's what it is. But yeah, like there are better ways, but you can't let them stop you from doing it.
Build it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always got in trouble at my last job because all I did was make one-offs, right? That was my only job. And when you do that, your BOM budget doesn't really matter because it's insignificant compared to everything else, compared to engineering time, compared to, even manufacturing the boards. So I was getting a little cocky and, my boss is like, stop. This isn't the way engineering's supposed to be. I'm like,
Or you have a lot of those things where no one expects you to do it twice.
Yeah.
Like, this is the one and only time I'm ever doing this.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to repeat it.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. So I will show you something else. I have it out from my other course. So they sell these little toy vices. I say toy because I consider them to be toys, but they sell them for these little Chinese miniature
little cutie
lathes.
Yeah.
But they also come in really handy if you need to hold something round, like a circular connector or whatever. You can just tighten it down. You can get 3-jaw, 4-jaw chucks, and it can just grab stuff and hold it for you for when you're doing some of the fine soldering like Brian's doing. I don't think it'll help him with this particular project, but I just figured since I had it here, I'd share it in case it ever helps with a future project.
That's funny. There's a device like that called a pin vise for really, really small round stuff or whatever shape. Kind of looks like a pencil, like a mechanical pencil, but it's like a chuck that you can clamp down. I somewhere have a drill chuck welded on the end of a screwdriver handle.
This is the one that General makes. It holds anywhere up to like 3/16 of an inch or something, or a quarter, or all the way down to, well, this is a 2-millimeter drill that I've got on it now. It's indispensable. Really,
I have a drill chuck welded to a screwdriver.
Nice.
It works great.
Whatever works.
And then Brian mentioned a stick vise. So for anybody watching the stream later, wondering what one of those are, this is a stick vise. It is just a stick. It's got a little spring-loaded back end, and you can 3D print, or you can buy nylon vise jaws for it. Your boards go in and holds them nice and tight and sturdy and secure. So you can do whatever trouble you want to get into. with it. Let me get that on there. There we go. And then I've got that connected to actually something off of a dial indicator, an old one, so that I can screw this into my workbench. You guys never get to see it because I always have it covered in this silicone mat, but my workbench is a 1/4-20 optical breadboard. So there's a 1/4-20 hole every inch on center. So, yeah. So Brian's going to make one. And if you want to,
I recommend you make one. I made mine. It's probably like 4 pounds. It's really overkill.
By all means. I think the developer of the stick vise even puts the plans online, if I remember correctly. Or, yeah, and I'm pretty sure it was him that did it. And he's like, yeah, 3D print your own. I don't care.
Yeah, I found a nice one that I needed to redo it to fit the parts that I have on hand. He used an 8mm shaft, and I don't have a shaft that big. I only have 5s and 6s. So, that's sometimes you just have to start over and make it again. But it's not complicated.
No.
And if I break it, I can make another one rather than buying one and breaking it. So, of course, the commercial ones are aluminum, so they're harder to break. But
well, hey, we've got a few minutes left. Do you guys want to talk at all about this week's content?
No.
Okay, that's cool. You don't have to.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head that's pertinent.
IPC 7351 naming conventions?
Yeah, I feel like I know the kind of person who wrote that document. I feel like their life is a continual struggle to bring order in chaos.
That would be an apt description. And there are those who feel the IPC 7351 is insufficient. And they feel that passionately, Elliot, passionately. So they've gone to great efforts to extend the IPC 7351 specification. And thank God those people exist, because it does help us in the end.
Yeah, standards are great. But
what's that?
Standards are wonderful things when they work.
Unfortunately, IPC 7351B is kind of where it's stagnated. The committee, there's some political issues at play, and the committee hasn't, as far as I know, really moved it forward to get IP 7351C going. So it's not really a standard as much as it is a suggestion, which is unfortunate. So, okay, so that was a short conversation.
Yeah,
what else do you want to talk about?
Well, one thing that came to mind, I think it was in the title of the YouTube stream, that when you posted it on Discord, the ESD protection.
Yeah.
While I'm thinking about getting what equipment am I going to need to do this stuff properly. I do need a new soldering iron, because the tip on my old one is, I think it's literally spherical. The width of the tip, there's no point on it at all. I was doing some stuff soldering with a magnifier on, and I almost couldn't keep it on the pad when I was doing those LEDs, and it's those things are on like a 2mm spacing or something really small, and I could almost not get the tip of the iron in the right place to solder all 3 pads. So,
well, for $25, I'm really impressed by the pine sill.
That's where I'm leaning, but
with the little chisel, it's not a chisel. It's although a chisel tip would be fine. I guess it is no, I don't know what that is.
Well, if you relate everything to the price of a pizza, then that's a good deal.
Yeah. Well, and they have it. Number one, it uses the same tips as the TS100. So, and they have multi-packs of the tips. Get one of all 6 or 8 tips, whatever it is, for relatively little cash.
Yeah.
The tips last forever.
The other thing I was interested in is, it came from a comment on Amazon about it. There's an open source controller firmware for it. You can flash a new firmware for it and get extra features or something.
Yeah,
I
I've heard that too.
I have that on my TS100.
I haven't looked at it enough to see if it's worth it, but it's always,
I think I only did it for fun.
Modify the new tool. So
Yeah, I did it for fun, I think. But you'll find the tips last forever, unless you're like, I don't know, salvaging boards with them. But they don't erode because the thing goes to sleep and cools off to like 100 C every time you set it down. So I've had the same tip actually on mine for probably like 2.5 years. The OLED screen has worn out, and I replaced it, and still using the same tip. It's remarkable. That alone is just really impresses me.
That is pretty cool, and it's $25.
I would say, do you have any opinion on whether the actual TS100 is worth the 2 or 3 times the price that the Pineful is?
Yeah, it's not worth the difference. The reason I have both is because this was available way earlier than this. But if I had a choice, I would have bought this guy. It's functionally equivalent. Tips are identical.
80 or 90
nothing
bucks
to lose
for the 100, and I was looking at, is there really a difference? And it doesn't look like there's much.
It's a tiny bit slimmer. It's a tiny bit shorter, but it is equal in all other respects, as far as I can tell. It's got 2 buttons, 1 screen, same power adapter, although the Pinecil has USB-C and this doesn't. So, yeah, no question, go with the Pinecil over it.
I would have to agree. It's got a micro USB for programming on the TS100, which you can't get enough current in, but you can with the Pinecil. And the Pinecil also gives you the cool little thing for your finger, where with this guy, you're bound to hit the button on the TS100.
I hit the button every now and again.
So, yeah, Pinecil, $25.
It's actually 35, but close enough.
Oh, 35 on Amazon. It's 25 from the manufacturer, but you got to pay for shipping. So,
and you have to
35. Yeah.
Yeah, they have. My understanding is they're shipping like weeks out, whereas Amazon, I'll get it by Wednesday.
Yeah, I bought this when they launched it, and it came relatively quickly, but not Amazon quickly.
It's just that's what I've heard of it the last few months, is that they're slow.
So, well, there you go.
You won't regret it. Get it sooner than later, because all the time you spend not using it, you'll regret it.
Hey, I've got a question that you two might be able to help me with. I think I'm ready to spend a little money and do something about my lighting. So, what do you know about color rendering index, CRI?
Nothing.
For LEDs.
Very little.
I know that these commercial-ish lights you can get from Home Depot, Lowe's, will give you, they actually have 2 or 3 sets of LEDs in there, and you can switch them between like 3 sort of color temperatures, but they're not for like video protection for sure.
Yeah, I don't know what LEDs. I like it. It's cool. I got it off eBay for something that's lighting everything now, but it's the wrong color temperature, and it's too straight down over my face, right? So I gotta change it out. Shows people I'm bald. If it wasn't for the lighting, you'd never know.
That's what it is. Get a light on your desk that just shines up your chin.
So, all right. Any other course comments or questions or suggestions?
I noticed today the encoders we have picked out are out of stock at DigiKey. So FYI.
Great. Yeah.
Also the RGB driver for the LEDs.
Really? That's out of stock now too?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can always get more. I can always get more encoders to ship from not Mouser, or I should say not DigiKey. Whoops, I guess I let my secret go. But those parts are available from people other than Borns. So I was kind of hoping we'd be able to look around and see if those parts exist elsewhere in the parts ecosystem under different part names and numbers.
So I know like SparkFun has, I think it's the same Borns part, but they don't list the manufacturer part number. They have some that are in stock. I think Mouser had like 25 of this part. But yeah, well, if you know what the alternatives are already, or challenge us to find them, that's cool too.
Well, I mean, I can challenge you to find them because I probably can give you the manufacturer. Give me a second here. I'll tell you who makes them.
I actually probably have been on the weird web page with the foreign data sheet. Is it like top something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried actually searching for their part numbers and found very little in the way of like a supplier.
Well,
but I can't even remember the name of it now. So
getting through two-factor authentication. Rotary encoder. Who makes these people? I do have their email sitting around here somewhere. I kind of wanted to know how much they'd cost if I just bought them straight from them because the markup seemed to be pretty high.
It is pretty steep. You can get one on a breakout board for like $25 on Amazon.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. These are maybe $1, $2 parts at the most.
So out of curiosity too, has anyone picked out a translucent knob? Because having the RGB encoder doesn't really do you any good if you have a knob that light doesn't shine through, right?
I ordered the wrong knobs and I got some knobs that worked, but I think it was a bad pick, so I don't have a good part number on it. So no, I don't know.
There's hold on, let me read more before I say anything, Dope.
We might have to 3D print some.
That's what I was thinking.
PEL, what's the PEL 12T? Line cards below. West Elec. Okay, so I've got a distributor, Wayne Medeiros at West Elec. Tell you what, I'll just send him an email on our behalf and see if he can't get me set up with some of these.
That would be awesome.
I mean, I do have some, but I don't know how many people are going to actually need a parts kit.
Do you have the part number on the one we're using handy? I can't find it quickly.
TEL 12T.
12T. Okay.
There's a 12D also I learned, which has 2 colors of LEDs instead of 3.
And don't those also
and
have
then
the
12S? That's one color. Yeah, that's the one I found.
and don't those have these splined tops?
There's a different letter that indicates the splined or the flat, like D-shaped thing. But if it's 12S, it's 1 LED. If it's 12D, it's 2. If it's 12T, it's 3.
And I imagine those will all have different land patterns and footprints, correct?
Yes, they have on the LED side a different number of pins.
Okay, so that is something that we're going to need to do before we do layout. We might have to come up with a plan B for people with something that's available in DigiKey. So some of the considerations that we have, not everybody's going to be in the United States. So they're going to have different part availabilities, right? They're going to have to use something else. That's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. So there's no way I can do a global supply source. It's just not going to work. But for people in the United States, we've got DigiKey, and I've got, right behind me here, that box on the bottom is all our stuff. So I'm going to have to collect shipping addresses and get that stuff out for people so that they'll know they'll have it when they're designing their board. But yeah, having some more of those encoders would certainly be a plus. Just to make sure enough people have access to them. So I will follow up on that.
Cool. Yeah, I was just shopping around.
Go ahead.
You go.
You might want to think about asking people whether they want an LED version. I'm not sure I do.
I don't think I do either, so I was going to recommend the same thing. It's like, let's just pick an alternate part.
Get the ones with the metal shafts for the people that don't care. I'm going to have it on a board with a, where in a thing where I can't think of what I would use the colors for. So
okay, that solves our missing 595 anyway. Although the 595's been around forever. The linear shift encoder. So we can replace that with, I'm sure, 100 different parts. That one I'm not too worried about. But yeah, if people don't want the colored RGB LED, that would be fine. So, okay, so I've got an email out. I'm pretty sure we can get a few more of these at not DigiKey. And then we'll go from there. So, all right. Do you guys want to see if you can find another rotary encoder that excites you?
The hard part will be finding these things, because I've used I don't know, many of them. It's the description of it is rotary encoder on Amazon. It's just whatever they are. They work great. I've used lots of them, but I've never found the equivalent part because I haven't looked too hard, and there is no identifying information on it. They're very common, but who knows what they are.
Okay, so it looks like Mouser's got 47 in stock, 950 expected, 1217. That's a little later than I'd like to wait. Do we have any DigiKey estimate?
Says, let's see, check lead time. Ship date estimate 6/27/22. So 7-8 months from now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that means they're shortage items,
So
which is suck. But
probably because we're fighting SparkFun and Adafruit for them would be my guess.
I'd gobble them all up if I could sell them for
right?
that much money.
Absolutely. So, all right, gentlemen. Well, thank you for joining me tonight. It's been fun on Mark Voids a Warranty. I'm sorry. Now, what are we doing tonight? I don't even know what we're doing anymore.
You could
For
void a
Teach Me-
warranty.
For Teach
Just
Me
grab
PCB.
some.
Just
void it.
Actually, I might not be doing Mark Voids a Warranty tomorrow at noon, as per usual. I've got a doctor's appointment. It's no big deal, but I don't know if I'll be back in time. So if I am, I'll void a warranty, and if I'm not, I won't. So, all right, guys. I guess I'll see you around the forums and the Discord.
All right.
Right on. See you
Talk
guys.
to you later.
All right. Thanks for coming out. We'll see you.